podcast today. This is where we talk about anything every time
Yeah,
we talk
it could
about
be.
anything that might come out of the hat that we're going to draw out of here in a minute. Yeah.
Yep. I hope
So
you're doing well.
hope you're doing well. Glad you're with us. Last time we recorded, we were outside. We're back inside again.
Yep.
Uh,
Looks like we will be
yeah.
for a while.
Yep. Northern Michigan weather reminding us that we're in Northern Michigan. So but
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yep.
That's okay. Yeah. So like, subscribe, share. And if you have a topic that you would like us to talk about on an upcoming episode, just put it in the comments.
Let us know. Our
let us
topics are-
know, or if there's a book that you have read or that you've heard of that you want us to read and then discuss.
Yeah, that'd be good.
We like doing
Yeah.
that. So yeah. Right now, we're currently still reading Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Yes. So good.
And
Highly
yes.
recommend.
Yes, it very, very good
Yeah.
and very interesting, and historical perspectives too, as far as the Holocaust. But him talking about like choosing our attitude. I don't know if that would be the right
Yeah.
word, but
Yeah.
choosing our mindset about how we're going to navigate through something.
Yeah, especially when it's something you didn't choose.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, but
That was a very good perspective.
mhm.
And I think if you have read like Anne Frank, or if you have studied the Holocaust, I think it's a different perspective. And
Right.
it's very, very good. I think we should all read that.
Yeah. So this at our 5th book this year.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
already more than I read last year. So I'm so
Right.
excited for myself.
So yes. So we're coming up with our one that we're going to read next for starting in June.
Yep.
All right. So
We get to draw. You guys got to give us some ideas so we can freshen up our
that's
hat.
right. We got to freshen up our hat. Still
Yep.
have quite a few in there though. So
Yep.
whose turn did we decide?
It's my turn.
Your turn.
to
We
draw
just
some.
talked about this. Oh, whoops, one fell out. We gotta have it in there. Whoa, we do still have quite a few in there. So hold on. Okay, I'm
Okay.
gonna quit shaking the hat around.
It's like my favorite part is
I know. And then we go, what is it? It is.
What if life is working out for you?
Yeah.
Oh, this is good.
It's good. I've heard that come up quite a bit lately. So it kind of doesn't surprise me that that's the one that you pulled out of your hat.
Yeah.
What if life is working out for you?
I think just shifting your perspective and asking that is a whole new, because we've all been in this like negative why is this happening? Why is that? And like, but what if it is happening for a reason?
Right. What if it's happening for you instead of to you?
Yeah.
And opening your mind up to the possibility that life, we were just talking about the different ways that we talk about or call life source,
Yeah.
higher power, connection, with the universe, your spiritual, but just having yourself open to the possibility that life is working out for you instead of to you. And that sometimes when things happen in our life that we don't understand, if we can hold on and be patient and wait, we often can look at things backwards and see where they were happening for us instead of to us.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times too, when you look back on something, I just think it's important to shift your perspective and ask that, what if this is working out for me? Why, because that will help you navigate whatever the situation you're into.
Right.
Help you evaluate like from I don't want to say an out perspective, but so you can try to look at it in whatever I'm trying to say.
Right. And look for the lessons that are perhaps in that, in that chapter, in that part where that you weren't expecting life to maybe go this way, but, looking for the lessons that might be coming at you, or the things, what do I need to learn through this? What do I need to learn through
And
this?
especially if you feel like you've experienced this scenario,
Could be a sign?
It could be a sign that you have to learn something and you haven't learned it yet. Evaluating, especially if you feel like this is a familiar problem in your life, or you've already encountered this 1,000 times. Well, the universe must be wanting you to learn something from this that you haven't already.
Right. That there's still something. I'll talk about that a lot. It's like, yeah, this has happened in my life more than once, or this, like you said, this topic, this thing keeps coming up and there's a message there. And there's still something. I always say there's still something I have to learn. I might
Mhm.
not know what it is yet, but there's still something I have to learn.
Yeah, yeah. And I think just looking at it from the perspective of the universe is working for you.
Mhm.
The universe wants to live and move and it's in a constant motion and it constantly wants to be going forward. So if you're thinking about a situation about it's like holding you back or being negative, that's just not the case. The universe is always working for you. Rather it be you have to learn a lesson and that's why you've already been in this situation for 50 times. Or if experience this catastrophic something, a loss or it's not something meant to like hold you back, or it's not, although it may be a negative feeling or situation right now, it's still something that is meant to propel you forward and help you in your life and your journey and whatever your life's goals and
Right.
dreams are.
Right. Yeah. I know in that book that we were just referring to, there's a part in there near the back where I'm reading right now where a gentleman comes to him for some counseling, we'll call it,
Yeah.
because his wife had passed away.
Oh, yeah.
And he was very sad and down and depressed, and she had been gone for a couple of years. And he was saying, "Oh, why did this have to happen to me?" Was
Mhm.
kind of the perspective that he was coming at it from. And, Viktor Frankl tried to, get him to look at it from a different perspective, of which he was able to do. But it was like, but what if you would have died first
Yeah.
and that your wife would be the one feeling like this right now
Mhm.
because you were gone, and it just changed his whole perspective on,
Yeah.
okay, I'm willing to have this struggle with the grief that I have as a way of serving her so that
Yeah.
she didn't have to. So
Yeah.
it was like a whole total
Yeah.
shift of perspective, and that man was able to look at it differently and accept it more
Mhm.
readily
Mhm.
and move forward.
I think
Yeah.
so a couple different things. If you're constantly finding yourself in the same scenario, I think seeking out like a book or something to help you shift your perspective about it can be like this book that we're reading. He talks about his time in when he did go to concentration camps. Although it seems like we've heard this before or whatever scenario you're in, and even for me and well, I wasn't in the Holocaust.
Right, right. I
Okay.
wasn't there. I did
So
not have to go through that.
could
Right,
you, and for the same thing, like if this person could make it through the Holocaust
right.
with his mindset and what he learned and what he did afterwards, although what I'm experiencing may suck and it may be detrimental or whatever, because we all have our own life struggles and it's not to diminish whatever you're
Mhm.
going through,
Right.
but I think seeking out a different perspective to help you shift, or maybe that's what you're needing to realize, whatever you're needing to learn from the scenario can help you a lot, because when you read about somebody else's struggles, you kind of evaluate your own, that maybe they're not so bad, or
Or I can
okay,
do this too.
yeah, I can do this.
Mhm.
It's not so bad.
I can survive this too. But yeah, if
Yeah.
you had a day that was just a piece of work
Yeah.
day that didn't go as planned, sometimes I'll like in the evening at night as I, put my head on my pillow, I'm just very thankful and grateful. Even
Yeah.
no matter how the day went, that I'm not living in a country that's at war.
Yeah.
There's no bombs going off outside. There's no, I'm
Yeah.
not worried about somebody driving by and shooting my house. Just those kinds of
Yeah.
things.
Hunger. Yeah.
Yeah, I had dinner tonight. I'm in a warm house. Those kind of things is
Yeah.
gratitude really is, it comes
Yeah. I
down to
think.
being grateful
Mm.
for what we do have. And I think they had to practice that a lot in the
Yeah.
concentration camp. I mean, be grateful for the little bit of food they
Whatever.
may have
Yeah.
had gotten, or the days where, I mean, sometimes they were even grateful for when they were sick because they didn't have to go out and
Yeah. Can you
work
imagine?
so hard. So,
Yeah. I think having we both have a gratitude practice.
mhm,
It's very important to have a gratitude practice. And one of the things like Rachel Hollis taught us, like when you write down the things that you were grateful for the day before. Um because some people get stuck or just write the same things all the time,
mhm,
like I'm grateful to be alive or blah blah blah. But like you just said before, we were talking about, like, being grateful for your bills because that
Right.
must mean I have heat
Right.
or electricity.
Right. I'm grateful that I have the money to pay my bills.
Yeah.
But a lot of people go, because we were talking about that. And I was listening to a podcast as I was driving today and him talking about, Lewis Howe was talking about how we get to that point where it's like, gosh, I have all these bills I have to pay.
Yeah.
And instead, shifting our mindset about that and saying, I have these bills. And like you said, I'm grateful I have heat. I'm grateful I have electricity. I'm able to go to the store and buy groceries, just
Yeah.
all of those things. I have a vehicle that I can put gas in to get me to work,
Yeah. Yeah.
just all those things, and shifting our mindset around those and around money,
Yeah.
and that money ebbs and it flows. One of the things too that I remember hearing once was, so you go to a restaurant, and these days with the cost of everything, you
Oh,
hear
yeah.
people say, it costs so much to go out to eat, but
Mhm.
when you're paying that, you could think of, what, this money is flowing from me, and I'm going to leave a tip for this
Yeah.
waitress who's going to
Yeah.
go home, and maybe she has kids, or maybe she
Mhm.
has a pet, whatever it is, and that money is going to flow from me to another
Mhm.
person, or somebody's going to get paid. They're going to get
Yeah.
a paycheck,
Yeah.
and that our money is coming and going for us,
Mhm.
which is
Yeah.
another perspective of life is happening for me,
Yeah.
and to me, it's also happening for other people.
Yeah, and I think shifting your perspective that way too helps you to create a different energy too, because
Mhm.
no matter, like, there's been, especially more recently, a lot of research around, like, you're going to attract how whatever energy you're putting out there.
Right.
And because the universe thinks, like, if you're constantly thinking negative thoughts, it's like, oh, you want more of that.
Right.
So it's going to bring more of that why me mentality. It's going to bring all of that stuff to you. So even just shifting your perspective of, what if this is working out for me?
Mhm.
Or taking the time for a gratitude practice just brings in a little more positive
Right.
light. Even if you're in a really tough time in your life, just being grateful for the little, whatever little it may be, because especially just reading that book, if there can be thankful in a concentration camp, no matter what, we can certainly be thankful for whatever it is, no matter where you're at. Even if you're homeless in
Mhm.
America, is still not a concentration camp.
Concentrate. Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
just bringing in a little bit different energy into your life to help you get
Right.
through.
And another thing I heard on a podcast, I had to travel for work, so I had time to listen to some different ones. And it's, we have 70,000 ish thoughts in our head
Whew.
every day. I don't know what the percentage of those, I can't remember what the percentage of those happen to be negative ones, because that's
Mhm.
just a natural thing. We have
Yeah.
both, but that if we don't do something to shift those negative ones,
Mhm.
or to rethink them, or just to dismiss them,
Yeah.
you can let them
Yeah.
come and go. I mean, Rachel Hollis talks about that a lot, about you don't have to believe everything you think.
Yeah.
But if you have 70,000 of them and you're not doing anything to
Mhm.
counteract the negative ones, that's a lot of negativity
Yeah.
spinning around up there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
If you have a negative thought, you can just even acknowledging it and
mhm,
saying nope and move on, because at
right,
least you, into your brain, to your inner self, you recognized that negative thought and you said no to it.
right.
So, yeah, it's you got to
Imagine it like a river,
Mhm.
and you just
Mhm.
let it
And you can
flow
even
by. You look at,
visualize
you
that.
see it,
Yeah.
it's gonna go.
Yep.
And then I'm going to, refocus myself
Mhm.
on
Move
something
on.
better.
Yep.
And this one that I was listening to also talked about, this lady talks about, it was a spirituality one that I was telling you about. And she's talks about us kind of not getting what we think we want,
Yep.
and what we want is behind the red door. We really want what's behind that red door,
Yeah.
and so we
Yeah.
go to the red door, and the red door doesn't open, and
Mhm.
we want to beat on the red door, we want to whatever. But over there is a yellow door that's open. So naturally we navigate towards that because it's open, and we walk through, and it's just full of possibilities. But it's kind of like that, being guided by your source, your higher
Mhm.
power, by God. whatever you choose to call it, that you're being guided, that the
Yeah.
red door really isn't for you.
Yeah.
And having faith and trust that, all right, if that's
Mhm.
not for me, I'm not going to beat my head there. I'm not going to stay there and
Yeah.
beat my head against it and claw my way,
Yeah. And
through
if
there.
you're
I'm going
yeah.
to flow elsewhere
Yeah.
and see what's there because I'm going to have the belief that things are working out for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you're constantly like, especially if you're like in a season and you're constantly like going against whatever
Hmm.
it is that you're going, just step back and realize, or what could I do to change the situation that I'm in? Because even if like the concentration camp or some scenarios that I've been through in my life, if it's situations that you can't control, find what you can control. It's
Right.
probably going to be your mindset and your attitude. But also, some people in my life recently are just have been like, going through a season and wanting to change their life a little bit. And I'm like, why don't we do something? Why don't you bring things into your life that would change what you're doing? Why don't you do a brain dump? I said me
Yeah.
and you. I'm like,
Yeah.
we
Yes.
just, if I'm feeling anxious or
Hmm.
restless and I can't sleep, I just get a piece of paper, brain dump everything. And I just gave the person other ideas like, have you read a book recently?
Mhm.
Because one of their coping mechanisms was working out. I'm like, well, you already do that. And that's may have worked for you initially, and not that you should stop working out. Working out, you
Mhm.
should keep doing that. But I think you need to bring something else in
Right.
to help you calm or shift your perspective. And that's probably what the yellow door is.
Right. It's
So
the
stop,
yellow
quit,
door
quit trying to go where,
where this is not
because
working.
also, like, I've read the book, The Path of Least Resistance, or did we read that together?
No, but maybe we should.
You're,
You already read it, but
the brain will go
right.
where it's easiest. Quit trying to fight.
Yeah.
Just it's a lot more stress, and your life wouldn't be so stressful. Maybe that's not the way you should be going.
Right. And listening to that as I was, like visualizing how you feel and paying attention to that. And like,
Mhm.
so let's say you're feeling stressed, you're feeling uncomfortable, that but you're over here trying to get through that red
Yeah.
door. And that's kind of like trying to, swim upstream, that kind of analogy is that there's a reason that this is feeling not
Yeah.
right now. And
Mhm.
that we need to listen to that and then figure out what we can do to,
Alleviate the feeling.
alleviate that feeling and figure that out. Take some time
Yeah.
and sit with it and say, you know what, could I
Mhm.
just let go of this for a little while? Could I
Yeah.
just give this some space and
And if it's
move
meant for
myself over
you,
here and
yeah.
see if that feels better? Because
Yeah.
our body, our intuition, our source is trying to tell us
Yeah.
something. Our emotions are oftentimes a message.
Yeah.
If we can take time to, we don't have to pay attention to necessarily all of them either or react to them immediately.
Yeah.
But oftentimes they're trying to give us a message. And if
Yeah.
something is stressful
Yeah.
and uncomfortable, there is a reason that it
Yeah.
is.
And that's not saying whatever's behind the red door is still not for you.
Right.
It's just not for you right now. And it could be that you need to
Exactly.
go this way to learn what you need to be able to handle the red door. So just to, even, it could be a love, a passion, or something that you like, I know, I really want this. I really want this.
Mhm.
Well, accept that it's not for you right now. And if it is, it will come back to you.
Right.
And if you go this way, you could find something that's even better. You will forget about this. It will never come. But I really believe that it will, if it's meant for you, it
Right.
will come back.
It
to
will
you.
come back.
So
Right.
just acknowledging and leaving
Mhm.
the red door.
I was just having a conversation with somebody about something like that today, and this person had gotten like a, I don't want to call it a rejection, but it's like you don't get into this right now. And the answer really was, when this person dove in a little deeper, the answer wasn't no, it's just not now. So that same concept of, it might just not be the right time in life for that
Yeah.
particular thing right now. And even though we think we want it really,
Yeah.
really bad, maybe a time in our life where we don't necessarily have maybe as much going on, or our kids need a chance to grow up a little, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
to get us to that season of life where we are ready for it. And then,
Yeah.
like you said, it will come back if it's meant to be, or we'll know why that answer was no because there
Yeah.
is something else.
Yes. Yep.
And sometimes, I have to tell myself that sometimes is that just give it a chance because there's probably going to be a time when you're going to look back
Mhm.
and it's all going to make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't make sense right now, maybe,
Yep.
but there, have faith that there's going to be a time when you look back that it's going to make sense.
Yeah. You might look back and say, "Thank God I didn't like keep trying for
Right.
that red door,"
Right.
or or you can waste your whole life trying to get behind the red door,
hmm
and you're not going to get anywhere because that's just not the way that your journey or your life or your plan is supposed to be. So you can either waste your whole life trying to get something that's not meant for you right now or ever or whichever, and you've wasted your whole life
Right.
when you could have easily went a different way
hmm
and tried something else. Because probably too, depending on whatever the situation is, you don't want to choose this way because you're going to have to do something hard, or you're
Could
going to
be.
have to grow, you're going to have to face
hmm
something.
You're
There's
gonna
a
have to fail,
Yeah.
possibly at trying something new.
Yeah, you're gonna have to put yourself out there. It's probably why, and maybe that's something you need to ask yourself. Why don't I just want to take this path of least resistance over here? Because it could very well be that you don't want to address a scenario that's been happening, but you don't want to waste your life trying to do something that's not meant for you.
I was thinking too about that as far as even the things like I know we've talked about people driving and how there's
Yeah.
always this the
Yes.
driving and the other
Yeah.
people is always a thing. And
Yeah.
that, maybe life is working out for me because maybe I'm not supposed to go any faster than this right now because up there, if I go
Yes.
faster, I'm going to get hit by
Mhm.
a car that's going to do a crazy thing. Or it makes me think of
Yeah.
when the ice was falling off the Mackinac Bridge. And if that car had been even just
Yeah.
a few
Yeah.
seconds sooner, that ice would have like crashed down on it instead of right in front of it.
Yeah.
Those little
Yeah.
things that who knows, maybe they got stopped at a stoplight and then they were ticked off,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that little but maybe life's working out for me is something you could say to yourself while you're driving
I
or
still do
while you're
that.
standing in a long line at a store or
Mhm.
whatever the thing is that gets you so agitated.
Yeah, as well for me,
That
like, sometimes if I'm running behind, it's I will get there when I get there,
Mhm.
and maybe I needed to learn something, like, maybe I shouldn't have been chomping on that ice for so long.
Or maybe I needed to leave later
Yeah,
because
or in
something was gonna
yeah,
happen
especially with
or
I don't care when I get there.
Mhm.
Once I'm in the car and driving, whatever happens, happens, so if there's a traffic backup, I don't care, I don't get mad about it,
Mhm.
except for the one time we were in Miami traffic for 3 hours. That was a little bit excessive. But like, there's a reason. Maybe I'm being slowed down, like you said, so you don't get in an accident
Mhm.
because
Right.
it's not your time to be in an accident.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, just
Yeah.
taking with life is working out for you, even in the little things. I do believe that very
Right.
wholeheartedly. Even in traffic, there's a reason traffic took long. There's a reason this checkout line's taking so long. I really believe that everything
Right.
is happening for a reason.
Right. And it's just a way to let go
Mhm.
of really a lot of times our need for control
Yes,
because a
control.
lot of times it comes down to
Yeah.
the reason that we're frustrated, the reason that we're impatient, the reason that we're thinking that life isn't working out for
Mhm.
us is because we can't control something
Yeah, and that
that
comes
we
back to the
really
let
wish
them
we
book too.
could.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, the let
Let
them book.
them
Yes.
let the scenario, like, if it's a scenario that you're in that you can't control, let it.
Let it play
Let it be.
out. Yeah. Let people be
No matter how much
who
you
they are and
worry,
what they are.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's not gonna change some things. Worrying, especially, being anxious about things especially, is not gonna change. The only thing you can change or worry about is yourself.
Right. Right. Yeah. Which comes back to that topic of that book again, because, when they were, in those concentration camps, there was not much that they could control anything, and
Yeah.
they definitely had no control over, how most of those people were going to, treat them.
Yeah.
I mean, there is
Yeah.
some there though, because even in a concentration camp, they did see good come out of people they didn't expect it to. But also, building relationships with people
Mhm.
can help you so that things in that case, maybe
Yeah.
something bad wouldn't happen to you because of building a relationship with another human being. Yeah, that topic does go along well with that. That, you know what,
I
maybe in
mean,
some way life, is working out. When you think about the fact that he wrote a book, that book, other
mhm.
books,
Yeah.
he spoke all around the world,
Yeah, he's changed a lot of people's lives.
right, yes,
And
and helped other people deal with difficult things
mhm.
through that. And,
If they
so
can, the people that did survive, what if life is working out for them? That's a big ask for somebody who's just
mhm,
been through the Holocaust and they have no family. Because most of
mhm,
them obviously didn't they were the sole survivors of their entire family.
right.
And you guys should just read that book because he could have had a different life.
He could have had a way different life because he had a visa to come to the United States of America, and he
He chose to stay.
chose not to because he felt that he would better serve.
Yeah, he basically not
He
that he
would
chose the concentration camp, but he chose
no,
to stick with his parents, but it was a
yeah,
very real, scary he already knew the danger of staying.
right, right,
And,
right. He felt like he could, yeah, be with serve his parents
yeah.
and
Yeah, and then
serve
when
his
he got
fellow
out
man. Yeah.
and
But
when
like
he
you said,
survived.
that's a big ask, and there are big asks,
Yeah.
that we don't necessarily want to come into our life.
And if that
But
bothers you, like, "Oh, well, I wasn't part of the concentration camp." Well, I think we need to start being a little more frank. Well, you weren't. So whatever you're going
yes,
through, you can shift your perspective and you can survive because people have gone through worse. Slavery,
yes, yeah,
the Holocaust. Yeah, our lives and our struggles are our own in our own
mhm.
life, and that's okay. And to address that, but to avoid shifting your perspective is way more costly than.
Yes. Oh, that was a very good one. I knew as
Yeah.
soon as you read that, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, we're gonna be able to talk about that."
Yeah. I feel so like I'm still in that book because so many people came out with their no families. He didn't have his
Yeah,
wife anymore. His parents died, and it's just I never understood or realized the perspective of the Holocaust in the winter.
right.
Of no shoes, and
No
I'm thinking of Northern Michigan
shoes.
winter, and I was,
Yeah.
like, being out there working every single day.
And no shoes or shoes that didn't fit, and they would get in trouble if they tried to fix their shoes,
And no food.
and no food.
How did
Yeah.
anybody survive?
And no heat, really,
No
not
heat.
much for heat.
No.
Really, and the power of the mind really
Yeah,
was
that's
something
yeah.
that, that a lot of what saved some of them was being able to take their thoughts to a place that, of course,
Yeah.
nobody can take that away from you. Nobody can
Yes, and
take that
that's what I
is a
loved.
power that you have, that if I wanna think about somebody that I love, and in his case, like his wife, his
Yeah.
children, whatever it may have been, nobody can take that ability for you to do that away.
Yeah, yeah, and
It
that's
doesn't
really
matter.
what touched yeah.
Your prison guard
Mhm. Yeah, like
can't
Gandhi too.
he can't tell you.
All those yeah. What is that what I'm thinking of? Who was in jail? Was in
Oh,
prison?
are you thinking about Nelson Mandela?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, and
Yeah.
he was also in prison too, and
Mhm.
it's just
Mhm.
like, no matter your life situation, nothing can take what's happening up here.
Right. And when Nelson Mandela got out of prison, he shifted his mindset as he was walking out of there to
Yeah.
choose not to take the bitterness
Mhm.
and the unforgiveness and
Yeah.
all of that with him out of there. He
Yeah.
chose
Well,
to
and
have a
Viktor
different
Frankl
perspective.
too,
Yes,
he
he
didn't
did too.
leave.
Yeah.
He most of the people who survived the concentration camps left because they
Mhm.
didn't want which rightfully so, they didn't wanna live there with that
Right.
trauma, all of that negative.
Mhm.
I mean,
Right.
I probably would have left too, but
Right.
he also chose to stay there.
Right. And
So, and yeah,
help the people that were, yeah, still there, and he chose to do something with what happened to him.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
up to you.
And that
It's
really
up to you.
started almost immediately. I mean, I think really for him that almost started even before he got to a concentration camp, but he envisioned himself speaking in front of people and talking about this.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that again was something nobody could take away from him.
Yeah, because they took the book that
they
he
took the
he
book.
started he started
Yes.
writing a book, and he had a copy of it, and they took it,
And
burnt
so
it.
he was able to
And that's what
rewrite it.
he did talk I think, to the other, like, fellow prisoners is they can take everything from
Mhm.
us, but they can't take the real you that's here.
Right.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is so
And it was
you are in control.
the people who were able to look forward to a future
Yeah, we're
were
the
the ones that
survivors.
survived as well. Not all of them, obviously, somebody got
Yeah,
sick and they got there was all kinds of diseases and stuff that went around too, but, or if they went to the, gas chambers. Otherwise, the people who could look forward to someday,
yeah.
even though they didn't know when that someday was gonna be,
Mm,
they had that hope within them somewhere that there would be a
yeah,
someday when they would be free.
yeah.
And it was those people who
The ending when he was talking
psychologically.
about them getting free was almost like when you were
Oh,
reading it, I was
yeah.
like, wow, that's kinda I didn't really realize, I guess, like, how it happened or, like, I was excited. I was like, "Oh my gosh,
I'm free.
he's gonna be free."
And
And
then
he almost got to the right before this said camp was liberated, they hurried up and got the prisoners on the, thing
yes,
to take them to the gas chambers, and he didn't get on,
I know.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
all the times he could have died and he didn't.
But the
Crazy.
people also who, you think, "I'm free." But then there was that other part of them that they had to work with those people, or people
Mhm.
had to work on their mindset again, because that freedom thing only excitement and joy of that only lasted as long until they got back to their places where they
Yeah.
lived and their families weren't there,
Yeah.
and they had to
Yeah.
start all over again,
I never thought about
you
that
know?
perspective,
Yeah,
but, like,
and that, okay, now I
they
have
were
to.
only happy for so long.
Right, and then now I have to grieve, and then I have to start over
Mhm.
again and figure out how to, yeah.
Yeah.
So, interesting
Yeah.
perspectives, but yeah, we can learn a lot from other people and what they've gone through,
Mhm.
and that there's a lot of stories out there where somebody has gone through something difficult and come out the other side and have figured out that life is working out
Yeah.
or worked out, for
Mhm.
them.
Yep.
And not that it was always easy, but
No.
you know,
Nope. We're
that it
not denying that.
that it did work out for them. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
All right.
life is working out for you.
Life is working out for you. Just give it a try.
Yeah.
You know what? What
Yep.
if life's working out for me?
Mhm.
Just to
Ask yourself that every day. Just see what happens if you do that every day.
yeah.
Yep.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us on Anything Bagel.
Yes. And like we said, if you have a book that you've read,
Yeah.
that seems to be kind of our thing this year. If you have a book that you've read that really has like inspired you
Yeah. Shifted
or
your
shifted your
perspective.
perspective, made you think, gave you a different way to look at things,
Mhm.
share that so we can read it and hear it
Yeah.
as well. So,
We would
yeah.
be interested.
If you know somebody that would be interested in hearing our conversation on this topic, ask that you would please share it. And if you would like and subscribe, if you subscribe, then you'll get notified when our episodes are out there and ready to be watched. So, all
Yep.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you and happy Memorial Day.
Yes. Have a good weekend.
All right.
Safe
Yeah.
weekend.
Bye.
Bye.